He was one of the most popular butchers in New Orleans, celebrated for his high-quality cuts of meat. But in 1912, a horrifying rumor started to spread that his prime selections weren't just cattle and swine. When authorities began to investigate, he vanished completely. Decades later, a hidden notebook will reveal a truth far more disturbing than anyone had imagined. This is the story of a forgotten police file, a missing butcher, and a secret that was buried deep beneath the cobblestone streets of the French Quarter. It's a tale that has long been dismissed as a local legend, but historical records tell a different story, forcing us to ask, what's more terrifying, the monster in the story or the fact that he was real? Section 1. The Butcher on Dauphine Street. Our story takes us back to 1912, to the vibrant, chaotic, and sweltering city of New Orleans. The air, thick with the scent of magnolia and decay, carried the sounds of early jazz spilling from crowded saloons. It was a city of stark contrasts, of incredible wealth and deep poverty, of devout faith and dark voodoo, a place where secrets could easily fester under a thin veneer of southern hospitality. And on Dauphine Street, a bustling artery in the French Quarter, a butcher named Gilbert Tabido had built a very respectable name for himself. Historical accounts describe Tabido as an outsider, a man from the rural parishes who arrived with little more than a set of sharpened knives and a quiet, unnerving ambition. But his shop quickly became a local fixture. In an age before modern refrigeration and strict food safety laws, a trustworthy butcher was worth their weight in gold. Tabido's shop was known for its impeccable cleanliness, and his cuts of meat were praised as the most tender and flavorful in the district. Housewives and restaurant chefs alike swore by his products, lining up for his pork chops, sausages, and specialty cuts. Tabido himself was an enigma. He was a quiet, solitary man who mostly kept to himself. Polite but distant, he served his customers with a quiet efficiency that some found professional, and others found unsettling. He was a large man with the powerful build of his trade, but his eyes were often described as vacant, betraying no emotion as he worked. He lived in a small apartment above his shop, and his life was a meticulous routine. Open at dawn, close at dusk, with the shutters of his windows always drawn tight. For a while, business was great, but then the whispers started. It began slowly, as these things often do. A strange, gamey taste in a cut of pork, a texture that was just off. At first, people dismissed it. In a city as humid as New Orleans, meat could turn quickly, but the rumors were persistent, and they began to merge with another, more sinister problem plaguing the city: the steady stream of disappearances. In the early 20th century, New Orleans was a transit city. As a major port, it saw sailors, merchants, and drifters pass through constantly. People vanished all the time. But around the French Quarter, the number of missing persons seemed to be climbing. A traveling salesman last seen near Dauphine Street, a dock worker who'd just been paid, looking for a good meal, people from the fringes of society, the kind who might not be missed right away. The connection was first made in the hushed conversations of a local bar. Someone made a tasteless joke that with so many people going missing, and Tabido's meat being so plentiful, perhaps the butcher had found a new, local source for his supply. The joke planted a seed of genuine fear that spread like a virus. People started looking at the butcher's shop differently. The once reassuring sign now seemed ominous. The smell from the smokehouse, once enticing, now seemed to carry a sickly sweet undertone. Customers began to avoid the shop. Gilbert Tabido, once a pillar of his small commercial world, found himself standing alone in his pristine, empty store. Locals would cross the street to avoid walking past his door. The whispers grew into outright accusations, though no one dared say them to his face. They started calling him the Butcher of Dauphine Street. Section 2. A sudden disappearance. The growing public anxiety eventually pushed the New Orleans Police Department to act. According to police records, 2 detectives paid Tabido a visit one morning, only to find his shop locked tight. This was strange. Tabido was known for his punctuality. Peering through the front window, they saw the shop was immaculate, as always. The floors were scrubbed, the knives were arranged on their rack, and the butcher blocks were clean. There was no sign of a struggle, no evidence of anything amiss. Just an eerie, unsettling silence. After forcing the door, They searched the premises. The shop itself yielded nothing. But when they moved the small apartment upstairs, they found Dibido's personal belongings, his clothes folded neatly in a drawer. It was as if he'd just stepped out for a moment. But Gilbert Dibido was gone. He had vanished without a trace, leaving behind his business, his home, and the terrifying rumors that now hung over Dauphine Street like a shroud. The initial investigation hit a wall. With no body and no hard evidence of a crime, the police were at a loss. The shop was shuttered and its windows boarded up. For a while, the story of a cannibal butcher who disappeared was a popular piece of gossip, a ghost story to tell on dark nights. As time passed, new scandals and mysteries captured the city's attention, and the tale of Gilbert Dibido began to fade, seemingly destined to become just another piece of grim folklore. But the story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. In the late 1950s, the old building that once housed Dibido's shop was scheduled for demolition. As workers began tearing down the structure, they found something hidden inside a wall cavity behind the old smokehouse, a small, brick-like object wrapped in oilcloth. It was a ledger, the butcher's personal notebook. Section 3. The Notebook and the Chilling Truth. That notebook, long hidden from the world, was the missing piece of the puzzle. This wasn't a business ledger tracking sales of pork and beef. It was something far more sinister. The pages were filled with Dibido's cramped, precise handwriting, containing a list of names, dates, and cryptic notations. When the notebook was turned over to the authorities, a cold case detective, intrigued by the old legend, decided to cross-reference its contents with the city's records of missing persons from the early 1900s. The results were chilling. Name after name in Dibido's notebook matched the names of people who had vanished without a trace between 1908 and 1912. The legend, it turned out, was terrifyingly real. The entries were methodical. Next to each name was a date, presumably the date they arrived at his shop. There were other notes, too, words like strong, thin, or drifter, which seemed to categorize as victims. The list wasn't limited to the poor or transient, either. It included a prominent businessman's estranged son, a musician from the Treme neighborhood, and several women whose disappearances had only been briefly noted in the papers. The notebook, supported by old police files that mentioned the discovery of unusual anatomical specimens at the shop, confirmed the city's worst fears. Gilbert Dibido wasn't just a butcher rumored to be selling human flesh. He was an active serial killer using his shop as a grotesque factory. His business provided the perfect cover. He had the tools, the skills, and a brutally efficient method for disposing of the evidence. The smokehouse that cured his meats also masked the smell of his crimes. The very act of his trade, the dismemberment and processing of bodies, was his method of murder and concealment, all in one. Conclusion: the discovery of the notebook provided a horrifying resolution to a long, cold case, but offered no real justice. Gilbert Dibido was long gone, his ultimate fate unknown. Did he flee the city and start a new life under a different name? Or did he meet his own violent end in the swamps and bayous surrounding New Orleans? We will likely never know. The notebook provided a list of victims, but the true number may never be known. Unlike so many local legends that crumble under scrutiny, the story of Gilbert Dibido holds up in a most disturbing way. The police investigations, the matching names of the missing, the notebook itself, they all point to a man who, for a few terrifying years, fed the city its own secrets, 1 pound at a time. The story of the butcher of Dauphine Street is a powerful piece of New Orleans history, because it's true. It's a chilling reminder that sometimes the most enduring monsters aren't the ones we make up, but the ones who were real all along, hiding in plain sight. His story serves not as a reflection of historical fear, but as a testament to a historical crime. And that, in its own way, is far more unsettling. What do you think? Why do you think a true story this gruesome could be so nearly forgotten and dismissed as a legend? Let us know in the comments below. CTA, if you enjoy digging into historical mysteries and separating fact from folklore, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation. Thanks for watching.